Thanks for joining us for Tuesday's edition here of Elko Live on KELK. This is the day we set aside to go over city news, but we have a bonus today. We have a combined city-county program with our two guests. We have our city fire chief, James Johnston, also known as JJ, and our Elko County emergency manager, Lee Cabanis, joining us. And this is quite the duo, and we appreciate the opportunity to get to visit with you. JJ, thank you for bringing in Lee today.
Yeah, of course. I think one of the things that we want to show too is that most of the city issues are also county issues, and working together to overcome the gaps and come up with better solutions together. So.
Well, in fact, that's something that's catching the attention of even state officials. Both of you are going to be presenters at the end of this month in Las Vegas. And I know since he won't be singing his praises, you can talk about the significance of the state NVEM credential.
Yeah, so our county emergency manager, Lee Cabanis, is going to get his NVEM, which is a Nevada Emergency Manager credential. And I believe it's the first one in the county.
Yeah, I believe it's the first one in the county. And there's only a limited number of them in the state. And I think they're only presenting, I think, maybe 6 or 8 this year. But it's a certification process that requires you to do all sorts of things, participate in exercises, take additional training, either write, present, or be published. So those kind of things. So it's been probably a 2-year process to get all of the single items together to be able to submit this year. So I'm grateful that I've been notified by the Nevada Emergency Preparedness Association, which is the state's emergency managers association, that I'll be receiving that in February, the end of February, at the Nevada Emergency Preparedness conference that will be, James and I will both be presenting at, as well as Matt Peterson, who's the county fire chief. So we'll be presenting individual topics during that conference at the end of the month in Las Vegas.
Well, congratulations, Lee. That's really an honor and something that we can all be proud of. But we appreciate all of you. And as you mentioned, Matt Peterson, you've really elevated the availability, the access to quality medical care and emergency response in Elko County, and I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, across the board, one of the things that our aim was to improve not only working together, but our end result, and that is emergency response and then community engagement. Those two things are hand in hand, especially when we have a small community that faces a lot of different challenges. So working together is key to overcoming, especially when we have wildfire and floods and all the different types of stuff that we face on a yearly basis.
So what we want to talk about, and we can start with you, Lee, is that preparedness is key, right? And that's a part of this collaboration.
Absolutely. So we see preparedness and response as kind of a responsibility, right? That is our responsibility. And everybody that lives in Elko County is a county resident, even if they are also a resident of a city. So tear down those silos, kind of view it all as how can we all work together to achieve an outcome. So some of the things that we've done are, we've met with the state, so the Division of Emergency Management for Nevada. We do a lot of the things that used to be done on the county or municipality level collaboratively or regionally. So there's things like threat and hazard identification, risk assessments. All those are done regionally now. So we participated in that last year regionally. We write a lot of our plans together regionally. The ones that we haven't yet, we'll try and incorporate in the future. We do training regionally with all the response agencies. So I think those are just kind of some of the ways that we can demonstrate that we're working together.
We saw that, JJ, and even with recent flooding or even threats of flooding, that these divisions, your agencies were ready to go and they were ready to roll together.
Yeah, and working last year, especially like with the state and the resources that they had for us, Lee created an avenue for us to get like even sandbags, so which was awesome because those things seem pretty trivial, but when we get to a point where we need them, we have to have them. And I think now we've made enough noise that our region is I mean, we're set now to host a couple of different trainings that we've never gotten, and it's really cool to see that Elko County and this whole corner of the state is really being noticed by the state DEM and getting the resources we need to collaborate.
Well, JJ and Lee, did you want to talk about that training? It's not something that the community would participate in, but we're going to have some fire agencies or EMS providers coming here.
Yep. So there's several things that are upcoming currently. So I'll talk about the kind of the first one is the National Emergency Management Basic Academy is a FEMA program that is kind of the introductory level of training for emergency managers or people that have that nexus in their normal job. So that could be law enforcement, fire, EMS, public works, healthcare, anybody. So that class has routinely been offered in the state, but generally in the Reno or Carson City area or in the Las Vegas area. And Chief Johnston and I advocated this last year that it was a valuable program and asked for it to be brought to Elko. And so we'll be doing that in Elko. So it's a 3-month-long program. And so we'll be starting that in March. So we'll go March, 1 week in March, 1 week in April, and 1 week in May. And we have people from all over this region, the state, and outside the state that'll be coming to Elko to get training and presentations from local experts, state experts, all on emergency management topics.
Wow, and that could even be a nice little boost to the economy.
It'll be probably 20 or 30 people plus all the folks that are coming in. So it'll be held at the conference center. So, we have that resource in town where we can easily go and have space to do something, large like this that kind of puts our best foot forward.
Well, that's great. Great news. That's a basic EMM Academy. Is that how you say that? Emergency Management?
It's the Emergency Management Basic Academy.
Okay, yep. Basic Academy for Emergency Management. Mm-hmm. Fantastic. And then another training that's coming too, Lee?
Yeah, so after that, we'll be having some incident command systems training as well. We're going to be doing 300, which is intermediate incident command, and then 400, which is advanced. And we haven't had those programs consistently in this region for several years at least. Years ago, right before COVID, I believe we took we brought the Train the Trainer program for that to Elko, and this will be one of the first classes. So we'll be doing that. It's a week-long program. We'll be doing that in March, and we'll be doing that again in October. And again, that's for public safety, public health, anybody that kind of has a connection to emergency management, which is a lot of folks, can sign up and take that program.
Well, that is really good news, too. And that fits in with the progress that the county, the community, the cities have made in just elevating some of these public health concerns or the probability or possibility.
Yeah, we've taken a strong approach since COVID, of looking at how we can better prepare ourselves. And I think individual preparedness is one of those things that we'd like to talk about, but also just how can we be prepared, and nobody's overstaffed, so how can we do it collaboratively and actually get the outcome that we want? And I think that's what we have achieved, and we still continue to work towards.
With our guest today, JJ, who's James Johnston, our city fire chief, and Lee Cabanis, who's the Elko County emergency manager. And one of the topics that you suggested too as we first sat down is that there is some individual responsibility that we take, right? And so that's why you might be encouraging folks to put together their own safety kits?
Yeah, absolutely. And Lee can talk more to it, but we really want to urge our citizens to have a 72-hour kit. And you can get extravagant as you'd like to, but basically the individual family needs to survive and get through an incident for 72 hours. And we're going to try to do a little bit more campaigning when it comes to what should be in it. I've talked with a couple of different clubs like the Rotary Club and which I belong to, and it's amazing the outreach that can come from that. And then Lee also with the Elks Club.
Elks Lodge, yep.
Yeah, and so each the little piece that we can do to get the message out there and what to have in a kit, and then also where to get everything. I mean, they have commercial ones you can ready to buy right off of Amazon, or you can create your own. So
Yeah, and it's really things like when there's an emergency, it's not that help is not coming, right? It's just that the emergency may be so widespread that it takes some time. So we just like to encourage people to have things like that you would normally think of: medication for a few days, water and food and that kind of thing, first aid kit. But also think about what if you had to leave for any reason, your important papers, how are you going to transport your animals? Do you have food and water for your dog and things like that? So like James said, there's plenty of stuff out there. When we do public relations stuff, when we go to little like community events and things, we try and pass out papers to people. But I think this year one of our focuses is going to be trying to encourage folks to build that and be a little bit more prepared, because if everybody is more prepared and the community is more prepared and the agencies are more prepared, that makes a more resilient community.
Really good topics and great ideas. Of course, moving forward with our emergency managers, thanks, Lee. As far as what's ahead, people plan for wildland fires, as we talked about some flooding possibilities, but maybe things like, I've seen you at the Elko County Health Board meeting, Lee, and there's some even more passive situations that could really impact the community that we need to be aware of, right?
Yeah, so we take, we talked about with that threat hazard identification. So we take in kind of all the possible things and say which ones are most likely to be the most impactful to Elko County. And wildland fire is always number one. But there's things that we've seen, road closures could be there. We've seen, winter weather, we've seen flooding. So all of those kind of things kind of flow into that. But again, it's kind of back to like, if you've prepared for one, you've almost prepared from all. You don't need to prepare, what am I going to do in a wildfire versus what am I going to do in a flood. The preparation for the individual is a lot of it is the same. So when we encourage people to be a little bit more prepared and create a more resilient community, it's all based on the evaluations that we've done to say, yes, we do have threats here, and there are things like wildfire.
Do you think that, and I'll ask both the chief and our emergency manager, do you think we learned some lessons from the pandemic, things that we could take away? I mean, unfortunately, this was a situation that was highly politicized, and it maybe made it difficult for actual medical providers to insert themselves in the conversation, Lee. But
I mean, to an extent, for sure. I think what we learned in Elko County was that we were able to do a lot of things with the support of our partners in the region, our local partners, and our state partners, and then with our federal partners as well. And we did a lot of things like testing for those people that wanted it, vaccinations for those people that wanted it. We were able to provide monoclonal antibody therapy treatment. But what all of that really taught us is how to work together under that level of stress. And we didn't have, what you did not see was, the city of Elko and the county of Elko doing two different things opposed to each other. We were collaborative basically the whole time. So that's kind of what we want to carry forward is how do we continue to collaborate? How do we continue to partner? And doing those kind of things brings the right people into the room. It has the potential to save costs and all of those kind of things as well.
Yeah, we saw that when these reports are being given at the County Health Board meeting from Great Basin College, and Amber Dinelli, Dr. Dinelli's incoming president of GBC, and I think she really showed us how capable she is of bringing people together. It's exactly what we need to do. Northeastern Nevada Regional Hospital. Dr. Bryce Putnam from Nevada Health Centers.
Yes, so he's still our health board. He's our physician or our doctor for the health board. But I will say that even Dr. Dinelli and Great Basin College was an exceptional partner last year. They did receive from the Nevada Emergency Preparedness Association. They received Partner of the Year for this region for their support of the community. So I think they have been a great partner. We've tried to recognize them as much as we can, but they still go back and do their core functions, and that's important as well.
Right. Educating and training. And we can talk more about that too, even with Chief Johnston here, because I know he has vacancies to fill or has had them. And it's an opportunity for people to get some great training. Lee, we'll let you cut out so you can get downtown safely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Lori. Have a great day.
Lee Cabanis is our Elko County Emergency Manager, one of the great partners that we have here in emergency services.
Yeah, and it's awesome to work with them. I think one of the coolest things is having the ability to access him and his team at 24/7, right? Like, they have resources we don't have, and we have stuff that they don't have, so working together it's pretty vital, especially when we have a common goal to achieve.
Mm-hmm. It really showed, again, the strengths that we have, and bringing up the county fire department. I know you mentioned Chief Peterson. There's been a lot more training, and there will be more training opportunities, we understand, and even through some of that through Great Basin College.
Yeah, and I think one of the moving forward, our local emergency planning committee, we're going to try to fund another class, but we did a leadership class last year, which was amazing. We're going to bring it kind of a lower supervisor one for our next one, and Chief Peterson's behind that whole mastermind, especially because it comes from a lot of the government wildland fire training. So we're looking forward to that, especially sending our captains and drivers to that.
We know, too, JJ, from the recent city council meeting, that all of this safety and planning, preparedness, can actually lead into better insurance cost savings for property owners in the community. You brought that up during the council meeting regarding the ISO rating.
Yeah, that's correct. So our ISO rating is a 2 for the city of Elko. However, during our recent evaluation, we learned that there was a 2X, and the X stand for areas of the city that wasn't covered under the current classification. So we took a little bit deeper dive and found out that there were hydrants missing from their evaluation. So we got with Kathy Laughlin and her team and Jake from our GIS system. They did an amazing job, came up with a map that illustrated all of our coverages for our hydrants, and right now it's under review, but it should look like it should just be a 2 from here on out for everybody in the city.
Yeah, and that will result in direct savings on your insurance policies, because those fire hydrants indicate that in the event of a fire, because we do have excellent water services in the city, don't we? It's something we've worked hard to achieve.
Yeah, and when our ISO evaluation covers our water, it's max points out, which is super nice. And sometimes our fire department disparity knocks us down a little bit, but I'd much rather have a water system that works as efficient as they do, and what a great job that Dale Johnson does getting the services and the water pressures that we need to do fire suppression sprinklers and just to have the service of water in the community.
We also wanted to sing the praises of your fire marshal, I should say our fire marshal, Jamie Winrod, also I guess achieved a significant milestone.
Yeah, she was the first fire marshal in the history of the fire department for Elko to get an IFSAC accreditation to be a fire inspector, plans review, and then also a fire life and safety specialist, which is kind of cool. She did that in Texas, and she did it over a course of almost a year, from last year to this year. She achieved all those, which is really good, because IFSAC is kind of like the highest level of training and standard, so that they meet that standard to get that certification. And then also Captain Ryan Safford, he also went to a smoke diver class in Alabama, which is he's only the third one to accomplish that in the state of Nevada, which is really cool. It's pretty high intensity paramilitary type of training that lasts about a week long, and they lost close to 30% of the participants due to the constraints and the physical exertion it takes to pass that too.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So Jamie's achievement as a fire marshal related to her work in plans inspection and, again, just keeping the community safe?
Yeah, and she works so well with our customers, all the builders, the permit holders, anyone that applies to a permit probably knows Jamie and how her customer service is just exemplary over the entire city. And we're really lucky to have her, and it's awesome that we can get her this certification and send it to her. And
then you said it's Captain Safford, right?
Correct.
So that you did. I want to make sure I get this right. Smoke diver?
Yeah, it started, and I didn't know this, but it started in the 60s. Even this type of kind of elite course that they put firefighters through, and it really brings back to like the root core of what we do, right? Sometimes we get lost in hazardous material and rescue, but the core thing is to be a really good firefighter, and that's what this teaches you, and we're excited to see what Ryan brings back. He's already working in a training program to cover our entire department, so yeah, we're really looking forward to him, and it's awesome what he did to accomplish that.
Well, congratulations again to both Jamie and to Ryan, and we're really proud, and you've represented us so well from the city of Elko and certainly throughout the entire region, so that's fantastic news, JJ.
Yeah, looking over this last year, we've done some really cool things. I mean, like I look at our Lee Engine Company people who put on that amazing conference where we had firefighters from across the state, and then they also do a lockbox program now, which is really cool. It's awesome to be a chief of a department that has such involvement from both volunteer and career firefighting that it makes me proud, especially when we're out there in the community making a difference.
Oh, you certainly are. And yeah, that's really cool news. They did do a great conference, by the way, and talked about a lot of really important topics. Last time we spoke, you were looking to fill some vacancies, I think even when you talked before the council. How are things looking now?
Yeah, so we have 3 onboard new firefighters that are just out of their red shirt or their rookie phase. We have Tristan Fordine, and we have Sebastian Velez and Dustin Osborne. And so they're fully on their shift and ready to go. However, we are down 1 spot that we are trying to fill this next week. Actually, we'll be doing testing, so we're excited to get that spot filled as well.
Great, and that's good news. We're trying to get everybody up to full speed. Since the pandemic, there were quite a few openings in various departments and capacities. Anything new with maybe either serving the airport or EMS, JJ? Or
Well, we definitely are a partnership with both of those topics. I meet with Jim on a regular basis, Jim Foster, airport director, who's under a lot of constraints when it comes to new and updated FAA regulations. So we're constantly trying to work out that, especially the security inputs that they're having to do now. It's kind of over the top, but we're working with it, trying to make sure that we comply with everything we need to. And then EMS has always been, it's kind of like what we do within the city. We support the Elko County Ambulance with that. We serve kind of as their backup when it comes to transports, which is a great role too, because we don't have enough people to do that all the time. And so it's nice to work with such good partners.
we've been able to see some firefighters who wanted to train as paramedics, EMT2s. Is that still happening, JJ? Or?
Yeah, we don't have any current paramedics in the program, but we have ended up with 7 in our department. So right now our focus is back to the basics. That's kind of the theme for this last year, and we'll see how we can go. We're entering negotiations as of coming up here pretty soon in the middle of February, and we'll see where that takes us as far as our target and our goals to try to make our funds match what our wants and needs are for the department.
Oh, yeah, that's understandable. So, yeah, and the fire department's just like every other agency. You know, you go through an evolution, the priorities might change, but obviously the goal and the mission is to still serve the community with the highest level of protection.
Absolutely, and that's where we lean on the council, right? Like, they're representative of our community. They guide us through a lot of this, their approval, what they think we can and can't accomplish. And that's really one thing as a fire chief that has been kind of looming over us is our council relations, and we've turned a lot of corners when it comes to like expectations, honesty, making sure that they're informed and aware of what we're doing on calls, off calls, all the things that add up to the spending of money and essentially the taxpayers' money, making sure that it's done correctly.
You bring up a good point, and you are referring to Elko City Council, right?
Right,
JJ, because there's generally a liaison on the elected board. This is an election year for at least 2 council members. Mandy Simons is retiring. She's term limited. Former police chief and undersheriff Claire Morris has indicated he'd like to earn another term, so he said he's going to run for re-election, but at least, like I said, those 2 seats. So that leadership's important. I'm not asking you to get political, JJ, because they're all the bosses, but you are, obviously, it's important to have people in those positions who have a general view.
right? And then also keep them informed of the things, because they look to us to try to get them answers, especially to their questions. And Chip Stone is our liaison, Councilman Chip Stone, and then also the mayor meet with them regularly. So it's awesome to be able to communicate what we're doing, what we'd like to do. And I think that's one of the best things about Jan is she's just brought like this team concept to the city. So everyone's approachable, which in the past that hasn't always been the case. So it's awesome to meet with the finance director and go over like what our assets are, what we'd like to do, the things that we need to do to keep our fleet up, all those things that are pretty vital to deliver our service.
Yeah, that does make a difference in those talks and negotiations, JJ. And then you can actually talk with the building department, when there are concerns about where growth is going, because response is huge. How long does it take to get this type of apparatus to that type of a situation, whether it's commercial or residential?
Yeah, absolutely. And getting, even if we just kind of split us up right now, that's my goal, is to try to get a station on the other end of town so we can better deliver our service under a timely manner and meet some of our response goals. One of the cool things that they're doing with the NFIRS, which is our reporting system, is it's completely getting overhauled. And so it's going to be called Nearest now, which is they've listened to a lot of third-party agencies, and they're going to come up with a better allocation for our analysis on, like, say, times and so we can use everything that we report. And right now we don't use a lot of it, so...
Oh, good to know. Near us. That makes sense.
Yeah.
What's happening near us,
yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Oh, okay. Well, did we get to all your topics today, JJ?
I think we covered everything. Maybe a little bit more.
Well, good. I'm always happy when I can get just a little bit more. Did want to mention that sometimes I do run into people who have questions about car seats. Do you guys still do the inspections or installations?
Absolutely. Yep. We actually now have 3 technicians. Before we only had 2. Now we have 3. We have Stacy Wines, we have, Tristan Fordine, and then one other one. But we have 3 technicians that are staffed on different shifts, which is great. So you can pretty much call the station and we'll get them scheduled. We don't have an avenue right now to get a car seat for you, but we can check the ones you have. And Pace Coalition has been working also. They also have car seat technicians as well, because a lot of times people don't know where to go. But if you try there too, also they have seats that they're giving away, and they also have technicians that check them too. So
thanks for the update. We'll make sure we reach out to PACE, Partners Allied for Community Excellence, because that is a big need. I just have this dread when I see on social media someone posts that they need a car seat, because you shouldn't be using car seats. They don't sell them at thrift stores. There's a reason. That's a safety concern. So
yeah, exactly. You can't see what's wrong with them,
No.
especially if you're buying from a third party.
Yeah, so go to PACE. We'll talk more about that in a future program. JJ, thank you so much for taking the time out and for bringing Leon earlier today, and happy that things are going well for the Elko City Fire Department.
Yeah, thank you very much, Larry. Thanks for having me.